Alright, so fourth problem. Uh, Before looking at the third problem, we'll solve the fourth problem because it's a little simpler than the third. So the question is stating that we are given basically a RPG game. It's not stated that way, but it's simpler to understand that way. Bob is trying to fight enemies, and he has a power which he can, use against enemies every second. Basically, that is the attack power of Bob, and we are having few enemies. Suppose they are three in number, and for each enemy there is a health and a damage. Right? This is the damage that they can do to Bob, which we need to minimize uh, until and unless we or Bob is able to defeat all the enemies. But what do I mean by defeat? Uh, Bob can use his power and reduce the health of the enemy in turns until and unless it becomes zero, or in scenarios where the suppose power is 4 and the health is 9, then in how many turns uh, is Bob able to defeat this enemy? In 3 turns, right? 9 by 4, but the seal value of 9 by 4 is what uh, is going to defeat this. It's going to take 3 seconds. So for those 3 seconds, this damage is going to contribute to Bob's damage. That is what we are going to minimize. So in order to minimize, we must select the enemy which is going to have a higher damage and a lesser health. That's what we are going to. Uh, that's the enemy that we are going to select. So we can basically sort it that way. Let's code and understand. Uh, Let me have a total damage right now because I'm going to need it later on. I'm sorry, I have a extremely sore throat today. Let me traverse and create a vector because I'm going to sort this enemy list based on damage and health. So I'm going to have a pair of enemy. Let me call that enemies, and damage dot size. Let me have a variable because I'm going to use it a couple of times. Alright, let me fill the enemies array. Alright, uh, damage is going to be the first element, and health is going to be the second element. Alright, and total damage is what I'm calculating because I'm going to need it later on. Damage of 5. Now I'm going to sort. Alright, so I'm going to sort the array enemies based on the impact that the enemy is going to do to bomb. So if I have if I have enemies taken dot end comma comparator, if I have LHS and RHS as the two potential enemy, which among which I'm going to select one first, and that first one that I'm going to select should have the maximum impact. So the maximum damage per second is what I'm going to select first. So damage per second is essentially damage per turns, right? Because that's every turn is a second. So damage per second is the number of total seconds is going to the damage. So that is easy to calculate. Damage is already given. Turns we can uh, find it out by health, by power. This is the damage per second. So I'm calling it DPS1 for the first enemy. I'm sorry, LHS dot first divided by the seal value of LHS dot first, one second, divided by power, which I need to access it from outside, so I'm going to capture it to prevent the edge cases. Let me create this double and double so that the seal will work properly, and I'm going to do that here as well. Finally, let me do it in brackets. Let me copy it for the second one as well. This is RHS. This is DP damage per second too. But what if they are equal? In that case, I should pick it based on the person who has more damage, or if even the damage is equal for both of them, then the person with smaller, lesser health. That is what I'm going to say. So DPS of 1 and 2, if they are equal, then check for the damage. If that is also equal, in that case return the enemy with smaller health. Right. Otherwise return the person with more damage. Otherwise return the person with more impact. Alright, so now everything is sorted. Let me create my answer. Total Bob damage, initially 0, and now that it is sorted, I can just iterate. Alright, print actually turns is what I need here. I could have done this easier way as well, because I can just, instead of having health as the second parameter, I can just have DPS as the second parameter. Then it would have been easier here, and I don't have to calculate turns again, because I would have it as the second element as well. But since I don't, let me just copy it. Alright, I think the brackets are good. The LHS is now enemies of I dot second, and this is turns and I'm going to reduce the total, actually increase the total mob damage by turns into uh, the total damage that is currently there. Now that enemy has been uh, defeated, then the total damage will reduce its damage contribution for the enemy that has been defeated, which is enemies of I dot first, can return total damage as answer. Sorting is the time complexity. I mean, sorting is the dominant one here, so it's going to be O of n log n, I believe, since enemies and power are of, sorry, damage and health are of the same size. It's going to be O of n log n, and yeah, space is O of 1. Let's submit it. Yeah, it works.